I know I am extremely happy and really looking forward to some of the things that Microsoft has been doing with the product and some of the additions that they've made to the product for us. And I hope everybody gets excited today as well with everything. First off, I want to say, please, if you could hold your questions or type your questions into the chat box in your GoToWebinar. We're going to hold them till the end. I will definitely answer each and every one of them. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to pop them in there. I am going to be jumping in between a slide deck and a couple of programs, one of them being Dynamics GP 2015, just to give you guys a taste of what's there and hopefully get your excitement to the level that I'm at. I know people have heard me in the past use the word awesome about Dynamics GP and some of the things that are in it, and I can tell you for sure that I'm going to be using that again today. So without further ado, let's get started. So the agenda for today is going to be to first off take you through the roadmap and show you what has been done in the past few years and what Microsoft plans to do in the next few going forward. And then we're going to start looking at what has been done that's new in Dynamics GP 2015. And then we're going to circle back and kind of look at some of the features that have been released since the original release of Dynamics GP 2013. So we're going to look at some of the stuff that includes in Dynamics 2013 R2 and the 2015. So if we look at Microsoft's roadmap and what they have done and what they plan to do, and we can see that some of the things that they've actually introduced for us since GP 2013, which was released back in 2012. And one of the main focuses that they've really tried to push is bringing the functionality back into Dynamics GP itself. One of the things that we're going to see going forward is people probably started to realize, for example, the removal of the business portal. They've brought the workflow back inside to the GP infrastructure itself, so we can actually control and manage workflow from within. And they've done a couple of other things that are very embedded in the system that we're going to take a look at today. So when we look at Dynamics GP 2015, there's three main things that kind of stand out from a benefits point of view. And one thing that they've done is really, really beefed up the workflow inside the system. So again, we don't need a SharePoint system. We don't need anything added on to GP. We're actually using GP itself to run the workflows, and an end user can actually create those now and control them. And we don't need to have a developer or someone in IT create them for us. The other thing that Microsoft has done with GP is they've allowed us to use single sign-on when we connect to an Azure system. And what that is a Microsoft hosted server. So if we have a Microsoft hosted backend database server, we can actually use single sign-on now to access our GP. And we can also use single sign-on for GP when we use Office 365 too. So we don't have to have multiple sign-ins back and forth. Now, one thing that I'm really excited about is this service-based architecture that they've gone to. And what this has done is it allows Microsoft itself and other companies to actually connect to the data without using a GP user account. And we can get into different things, different apps, and different ways of consuming the data and being displayed for the people who need it, when they need it, and how they need it. I'm definitely going to show you some of that today. If we look at some of the system-wide features, some of the changes that have been made, and I know you heard me talk about the service-based architecture just a second ago, but this is really exciting for me as a user of GP, as a consumer of the data, and someone in IT as well. This has opened up the doors to massive, massive possibilities for us. Again, I'm going to hold you back just yet. I'm going to show you one of the coolest apps I've seen from Microsoft in a very long time. I'm going to show you that in a few minutes. Before we go there, I do need to touch on a few other key things. Another thing that Microsoft has done is they've taken and allowed us to have single sign-on. So with the invent of GP 2013, they've introduced a new functionality with a web client. They've made that web client better when they released GP 2013 Release 2 or R2. They've taken it and made it better again in GP 2015, and they're supposed to be even adding to it again in GP 2015 R2. With the GP 2015 version of the web client, we can now actually use our logins from the Active Directory. So what that would mean is that the same login to get into GP will be the same login that you use to sign on your computer. I know that doesn't sound like much, but that is a huge advancement for us. And I know it'll make a lot of people happy that they don't have to have multiple passwords and multiple accounts to log in. Now that is only available to the web client at this point, but they're making the right steps. Some of the workflows that they added and things that they've done. So in GP 2013 R2, they've moved the workflow back into Dynamics GP. They added the purchase order approval, payroll, time card approval, and project timesheet approval as the first round of workflow being added into GP. I am sorry, but this is payroll for the U.S. Canadian payroll wasn't included with the R2 release. When GP 2015 launched, they added, GL batch approvals. They added a couple more of the purchasing approvals, receivables batch approvals. They went and they added 4 more payroll, again U.S. payroll workflow approvals, and they added an expense report approval for project. This is just the first step. They've brought all of this functionality in-house or inside of the product. And it's really clean, and it's made a lot of advancements in the system. Another really cool feature that they added, and it was because of customers basically voicing their opinion about it, wanting to the ability to copy somebody's homepage and somebody's homepage layout and how they did that. So now they've given us the ability to actually copy another user's homepage settings and apply it to somebody else. So if you have a new user coming on and you want to copy your homepage because you have all of the necessary shortcuts and links and everything in your homepage setup, we can now do that very easily just by running the copy user settings window. Now, this new feature really actually excited me, and also it was to the point where I was like, finally, we have the financial reports ability from within GP. What they've done is they've added a new link inside of Dynamics GP in 2015 that allows us to launch our business or our report manager reports, or management reporting reports, from right inside Dynamics GP. So we can go to any of our financial lists, report lists, or anything off of our area pages, and we can click on the management reporter reports and launch them right from within. And we can either launch them into a web browser or we can use the report viewer itself. They've taken that management reporter integration a step further, and it allows us to control what type of reports are presented inside of GP. So if we run analytical accounting and we run general ledger, we can control what reports are being used inside of the system to launch. So GP and Management Reporter are actually intelligent enough to know that if we say we only want GL reports to be launched from within GP, it won't launch the analytical accounting reports using those links. So if we look at some of the enhancements they made in the financial system, and I know I have some of our customers on the line today, they're going to be excited about this new feature. They've really taken the intercompany and started beefing it up as well, and I feel it's about time. They seem to have forgotten about some of the intercompany stuff, and they really did, I think, make a pretty strong enhancement here. We actually have the ability now to do an intercompany journal entry inquiry, something that I think should have been there all along, but it's finally here in 2015. The other very, very cool thing that they've done is they've allowed us the ability to void intercompany transactions, and it will actually void on both sides for us. We don't have to go into both companies, log into each one, and come back out and do the do the transaction on both sides. It'll do it both for us. When we look at payment terms in GP, one of the things that they were kind of restrictive on what we could do with payment terms for our customers and also for us. You know, if we had discounts if we paid next week, if we had discounts if we paid in under 15 days, and so on. Well, we can actually set up all those payment terms now. We have the ability to do that. They've given it to us in the system, and we can manipulate that a lot easier than we used to be able to. We actually have a fixed asset year-end close report now too. This is something that I think everybody who runs fixed assets has been looking for, something that kind of summarizes everything for us, includes our year-end information, and something that we can have for our auditors. Finally here. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you, and I'm going to stop here for a second and really talk about this. I hope everybody out there has been using email functionality to send to their customers, you know, sales documents, purchase orders to your vendors, receivable statements, and so on. I hope you're using that email functionality. But one of the things that was lacking with the email functionality was the ability to see what was actually sent out to our customer, our vendor, and so on in that email. We didn't have a history of it per se unless we went back into our email system. GP didn't hold that. Well, now it actually does, and we can go back in and we can see not only who the email was sent to, we can see the wording around the email, and we have the ability to edit and then resend that email now. It's a very simple little box that, or a window that comes up right off of the transaction itself. Another thing that they've done for us too is that they've given us they've added a function that won't allow us to create a payables transaction, or I shouldn't say won't allow us, it'll warn us if we're creating a payables transaction for a vendor that already has an open PO. So if there's a PO outstanding for a vendor and we go to create a new payables transaction, it's going to warn us to say, hey, maybe you want to actually put this transaction against the PO that's outstanding rather than creating a brand new payables transaction, leaving this PO out there, you know, and never, you know, without being taken care of. I talked about the web client earlier. They've actually added the invoicing module now in the web client, so we can have people in our accounts receivable department, if we're just doing regular invoicing, not sales order processing, we can have them out in the web client and doing the invoicing from there. We don't need to install a full client on their system anymore. And we have the ability as well now to do project expenses through the web client also. So we have timesheet entry that was already there, and we now have project employee expenses in Dynamics GP 2015. The business intelligence, what they've added for that is that they've, out of the box, included now, we have the ability to build refreshable Excel reports from our smart list. So what this means is that we can actually have the Excel report sitting off to the side of GP. We don't need to log into GP, and we can just open the report, refresh the data, and it's going to pull from the Dynamics GP database. We don't need to be inside of GP for this to work. So this is something that they've added, and it's out of the box now. It's part of the system. Now, you remember me talking a few minutes ago about the service-based architecture and what that was going to give us the ability to do. Well, that's where these companion apps come in. And the very first one I'm going to show you today is this Business Analyzer Release 7. And I'm going to kind of stop here now, and I'm going to go in and show you some of these applications. So if you look now on your screen, you're going to see Business Analyzer. And I'm going to tell you that this is actually running local on my machine, pulling from a Dynamics GP installed on my local machine with a database that's also running on my local machine, and that's all from a laptop. So one of the cool things is this is Windows 8, And I'm going to just kind of take you through it and show you some of the things that you can do with this. When we look at GP in this business analyzer app, we can actually come in and start viewing data and slicing and dicing it to see data in real time from our system. So we can flip back and forth, we can look at data, we can see it in real time, we can do comparisons, we can change chart types, we can do all that from within this companion app. And this app, again, is just running on my laptop right now, and it's a Windows 8 app. So this data becomes actually very usable to me, especially if I'm on the road or if I'm a manager who needs to look at information before I go into a meeting or slice and dice data on a regular basis. So again, this is pulling directly from my GP system. It's a pretty amazing. I don't even know how to say it to give it justification, because this is pretty exciting for me. The other thing that we can do too with this business analyzer is we can actually take now and expose management reporter reports inside the business analyzer and other SQL reports here too. So if anybody's running Business Analyzer and they have the web client there's the viewer, you'll notice that this is a very familiar type report to you. This becomes one of the most powerful tools, in my opinion, that Microsoft has come up with in a very long time for the business world. You know, this got me really excited when I saw this for Microsoft Dynamics GP 2015. I hope everybody else is excited about this one as I am. Now, I have been talking a lot about GP 2015, and I haven't really taken you in to show it to you yet. I've been showing you a couple of screenshots and things like that, but I wanted to show you just some layouts and how things are working in GP 2015. And anybody who runs GP 2013 or GP 2010, that the layout's very similar with a couple of changes. If you're running GP 2013 without the R2, you won't have this top bar. Anybody with GP 2013 R2 will have this top bar up here, this ribbon, now that takes us through all of our screens. The layout is pretty similar. When we start looking at some of our lists and area pages and stuff and so on, they're basically the same as well. The core system changes the integration with Management Reporter and the ability to send and receive emails. So if I look at any of my transactions that I have ongoing here, you'll see that I have the ability to email right out of the transaction now. It's a little bit different than it was with GP 2013, where I had to go in and have a destination for a report. Now I'm doing it from right within the actual transaction. The next thing I can do is if I look at, let's get out of that, I'll go to an inquiry. And we'll bring up any one of these invoices here. And I now have that same button here. I can go and resend. If this email was already sent, I can go up and resend this email under the Edit Email tab. I can add a new recipient. I can forward this to myself. I can actually go back in as well after the fact and edit the wording on the email here, the message and the body, and resend this new email. So if somebody says they haven't received their invoice, we can go in and very quickly edit this email and send it off to them and say, here's your invoice, please pay as soon as possible. This was a big change for us and something that we were glad to see happen. I'm going to go back to my slideshow. Hopefully I'm not boring everybody as that much. The next thing I'm going to take and do is I just want to go over a few of the main system features that they've added for 2015. Again, you have the service-based architecture that gives us the ability to have those companion apps like the Business Analyzer version 7, the identity management, which gives us the ability to have single sign-on through the web client and through Microsoft Azure and Office 365. The addition of the Smart List Designer with refreshable Excel reports. The navigation integration for Management Reporter, so we don't have to go out and open another application, and we can launch Management Reporter reports right from inside of Management Reporter. The copy homepage settings and the Management Reporter integration options. Now, some things that they've added to the system since the release of GP 2013 that people may not be aware of out there. One of the biggest things that they've added for end user functionality, and it's really small, it seems really simple, but we can now copy and paste to the GL. What that actually means is that we can take a GL entry that's in a spreadsheet, we can copy it, and we can paste it right into a GL entry inside of Dynamics GP. Now, it seems small, but that is a huge improvement, something that we've been waiting for many years. They did that in R2. It's also included in GP 2015. The other thing that they've done in GP 2013 R2 is, in my opinion, again, something that's been needed for a while, and I'm really glad to see it, is they've changed the way we actually do attaching of documents now. We don't anymore use what's called object linking and embedding. We actually use something that's called document attach. So if I take you back into GP here and we look at any one of these documents, I can actually come in now and I can attach anything I want to up here as a document and attach it into the transaction that I'm working with. What this means is I don't have to take and paste and save and click and save and paste and copy and look for my file and reattach it back. It's actually just a very, very simple, I can either scan the document, I can take the document from a folder or so on and attach it directly to my transaction. It's a huge improvement over the old way of doing things. I know the screens look similar, but trust me, they are not the same way. It's a lot easier now for me to do this. When we look at some of the other things that they've done since GP or with GP or 2013 R2 and 2015 on distribution and how we work with our information and flow it out to our customers and our vendors and so on. The main thing that they did in R2 was they've taken and they started to implement the groundwork to allow us to do proper emailing to put out to our vendors and customers and so on. They've really taken it to the next level with GP 2015, but we had to have that groundwork in GP 2013 R2. On the human resources and the payroll side, I am sorry to say, but the only real huge benefit that they've made for the Canadian market was that they've allowed us to do the Canadian payroll now on the web client. They did that in GP 2013, but pretty much everything else payroll related has been for the U.S. market. Now they have taken and put that groundwork in place for us to move forward. And I'm really hoping in R2 that they make some pretty significant advancements with the Canadian payroll and the web client and some of the self-service modules. When we look at where they're going with business intelligence and what they've done, I mean, they've really stepped it up for us. In GP 2015, they've given us the Business Analyzer. They've given it to us on Windows 8. They've given it to us on Apple iOS. They've given it to us on Android. They're taking that to the next level. I'm really excited to see what's going to come next when it comes to business intelligence. And the web client with GP 2015, they really kept working forward with it. They've taken it with GP 2013. They've added a whole bunch of functionality. They did it again with 2013 and 2015. So we're really excited to see where this is going to go. Time will definitely tell. Again, the workflows, they're always creating new ones for us. With every release, every service pack has been adding functionality with workflow. We're really excited to see where this is going to go as well and what they can do for us. But pretty much everything that we used to be able to do in the business portal either has already been replicated inside the core system or it's going to be in the very near future. And employee self-service, they really stepped that up again, mainly for the U.S. market, but we're excited to see what they're going to do for us with the Canadian market very short. I guess at this point, before I put up the last slide to contact Steve, was there any questions out there? I don't know, Suzanne, did you get any questions typed in? Okay, I got a question about the expense approvals, and I'm assuming we're talking the employee expense approvals workflow for project time and expense. So if I go into projects, and I'm actually going to go to I'm going to come into my workflow maintenance. This is actually, once it pops up, this is actually where I would work with all of my workflow. So when we're looking at expense approvals, and I'm assuming when we talked about the expense approvals, we're talking about the ones that are put out through project accounting. So if you're working with project accounting and you have your employees put in time and expense entries into GP, right now probably through the business portal if you're running GP 2010, then this is where we're going to come up in GP 2015 and set up the workflow. So basically, I would come in here to my workflow maintenance. I would have to create a new workflow. I would have to give it a name. I'm going to have to assign it, approvers and managers, and then I would come in and I would create my steps. Once I save the workflow, sorry. But basically, I'm having a hard time seeing my screen. I apologize. I'm just going to pop it over here for a second. There we go. So once I have it saved, I can actually come in and create my steps for the workflow. And I could say, what actually has to happen. So I could force a task at this point. I could say that this is final approval. And if I wanted to have final approval, I could say that it's at this point would go out to a management or my manager, or I could say it goes to a specific person in the company. Now, the really cool thing is that I don't need to have this person inside a GP. I can have this set up to fire an email out to that person, and they could then, from within an email, just click, approved, or declined with their reasoning. Now, I am sorry that I can't do that for you today, and the reason why is, I'm running this all from my own system, and I don't have an email server set up to be able to fire these off. So I wouldn't be able to show that. I do apologize, but I hope this is what the user was looking for around the expense reports approval. Is there anything else? No other questions? Well,
great. Well, thanks, Chad. And more importantly, thank you to the number of people that showed up today. I think we had over 40 attendees to today's webinar. So thank you for your patience and time, taking time out during lunch hour to attend. That being said, now is an opportunity, and sometimes we hesitate sharing some of the new functions and features that are made available in the newest release, because realistically, each business is unique, and when we have dialogue with a client, the biggest thing that we want to understand is what is your business problems and what issues are you trying to resolve. Because sometimes a new release, a new feature, a new function isn't necessarily going to deliver that added value, and really in a lot of cases some of that existing functionality exists in your current version of GP that you're using. So if anything, we try to run these value-added webinars with the hopes of being able to communicate to all of you what possibilities exist, but more importantly, give you the time and opportunity to look at what you're doing today and what potentially could be taken advantage of in the system that you may not be doing so today. So as Chad, I think, already showed, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be able to definitely put you in touch with one of our knowledge resources to see if upgrading makes sense, or to see if your current version of GP, it makes sense to make some of the changes to enhance your business process to work through that. So with that, if there's no other questions at this point, please do reach out to me, and if anything, in the next week or so, you'll be receiving a follow-up email with links to this webinar that you can share amongst your team, as well as other additional information on top of what Chad has already provided today. So have an awesome day. I'm stealing that from Chad, and we'll talk to everybody soon. All the best.
Thank you.